The Grand Consul chamber on Nexus Prime was the oldest building in the known galaxy. Its walls were made of living crystal that had grown for 10,000 years. Its ceiling showed the stars themselves, projected through technology so old that no one remembered how it worked. 12 species had ruled the Orion Arm from this room since before humanity learned to make fire. Today, something unexpected walked through its doors. Commander Elias Vance did not look like a man who had come to speak to the rulers of 100 billion souls. His uniform was torn in several places, his boots were missing, and his bare feet left bloody prints on the white marble floor. A long scar ran from his forehead to his chin, still fresh, still healing. He had not slept in 4 days, he had not eaten in 2, but his eyes were sharp. His back was straight, and in his right hand, he carried a small crystal that pulsed with a sick green light. The guards moved to stop him. They were Thelosian warriors, 7 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like gray stone. Their weapons hummed with killing energy. One touch would turn a human body to ash. Vance did not slow down. "Commander Elias Vance," he said, his voice calm and clear. "Terran Republic Navy, sole survivor of the colony ship Prometheus Rising. I am here to address the consul." The lead guard raised his weapon. "You were not invited, human. You will leave or you will die." Vance stopped walking. He looked at the guard for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a man who had seen things that made death feel like an old friend. "I walked through your security network," Vance said. "I bypassed your plasma barriers. I broke through your psionic locks. I did all of this alone, with no weapons, with no help, while bleeding from wounds your doctors have never seen." He held up the glowing crystal. "I carry information that will decide the fate of every living thing in this sector. So please, shoot me. Let my body fall here in your perfect chamber. And when the darkness comes, remember that you had a chance to listen." The guard hesitated. In that moment, a voice rang out from the great circular table at the center of the room. "Let him speak." The voice belonged to Ambassador Syra Den of the Althari Concordat. She was small by galactic standards, with silver skin and large dark eyes that missed nothing. Her people had studied humanity for 200 years. They found the young species fascinating in ways the other races did not understand. The guard stepped aside. Vance walked forward until he stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by the 12 delegations that ruled the galaxy. High Arbiter Velketh of the Thelosian hegemony leaned forward. He was ancient even by Thelosian standards, his stone-like skin cracked with age, his 4 eyes burning with cold intelligence. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had ordered the deaths of billions. A single human did not impress him. "You interrupt the sacred proceedings of the consul," Velketh said, his voice like grinding rocks. "You insult our security. You track blood across our floors. Give me one reason why I should not have you executed where you stand." Vance met his gaze without fear. "Because 6 months ago, my ship carried 40,000 human colonists into the Shroud Nebula. Men, women, children, farmers, teachers, doctors. They wanted to build a new home on a world your chart said was empty." He paused. The chamber was silent. "They are all gone now. Taken, harvested. And what took them is coming here." A ripple of sound moved through the delegations. The crystalline Vorix collective chimed with what might have been laughter or disbelief. The ancient Kelvori matriarchs shifted their massive bodies, stone grinding against stone. Only Ambassador Den remained still, her dark eyes fixed on the human. "The Shroud Nebula is empty space," said Counselor Morax of the Vindari Empire, his serpentine body coiling with irritation. "Nothing lives there. Nothing has ever lived there. Your colonists were likely destroyed by radiation or navigation failure. This is not a matter for the consul. My colonists were taken by something your oldest records call the Hollow," Vance said, "and in 3 rotations, they will be here." The word fell like a stone into still water. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Velketh made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The Hollow are a myth, a story told to frighten young races. You waste our time with children's tales. Then explain this." Vance held up the crystal. Light burst from it, filling the chamber with images that floated in the air. The delegations watched as the recording played. It showed the Prometheus rising from the outside. A beautiful ship, silver and white, carrying the hopes of 40,000 people. Stars drifted past as it moved through normal space. Then the stars changed. Something emerged from nothing. It was not a ship. It was not alive in any way the Consul races understood. It was a structure, vast and dark, made of black iron and angles that hurt the eyes. It moved without moving. It existed in ways that broke the laws of physics. The structure touched the Prometheus rising, not crashed into it, not attacked it, simply touched it, the way smoke touches air, and then it was inside. The recording switched to internal cameras, screaming, running, people trying to flee from something that came through walls, through floors, through the very fabric of space. In 17 minutes, it was over. 40,000 people gone. Not dead. Gone. Taken somewhere else. Somewhere worse. The final image froze on the screen. A set of coordinates, burned into the ship's hull by something that should not have been able to write. The coordinates pointed to Nexus Prime. The chamber was silent for a very long time. "We call them the Hollow," Vance said softly. "And we have seen them before." Ambassador Den was the first to find her voice. "Before? You have encountered these things before?" "Twice. The first time, they took Mars Colony 7. 200,000 people, gone in an hour." Vance's voice was steady, but something dark moved behind his eyes. "The second time, they tried to take Earth itself." Velketh's 4 eyes narrowed. "And yet your homeworld still stands. You expect us to believe that your infant species survived what the legends say destroyed civilizations far older than ours? I expect you to believe what I can prove." Vance lowered the crystal. "Earth still stands because we did not wait for someone to save us. We did not form committees. We did not debate. We fought. We learned. We adapted. And we made them afraid." The words hung in the air. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. The idea that something could make the Hollow afraid, if they even existed, was not a comfortable thought. "You have 3 rotations to evacuate this sector," Vance said. His voice carried no threat, no anger, no desperation, just simple fact. "After that, nothing I can do will save you. The Hollow are coming, and when they arrive they will take everything you might have become." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of beings who had ruled the stars for longer than humanity had existed. "I am not here to ask for your help. I am here to give you a choice. Listen to me, and perhaps we all survive. Ignore me, and everything ends." Velketh rose to his full height, towering over the human below. "You dare to threaten the Consul?" Vance shook his head slowly. "No, High Arbiter. I am trying to save it." The silence in the Grand Consul chamber lasted for nearly a full minute. In that time, Elias Vance did not move. He stood in the center of the room, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and waited for them to understand. High Arbiter Velketh was the first to speak. "This human has invaded our sacred space with wild stories and fake recordings. I call for his immediate execution and the destruction of this so-called evidence." Several delegates voiced their agreement. The Thelosians had ruled the Consul for 3,000 years. When Velketh spoke, others listened, but not everyone. "I would like to examine the data core," Ambassador Den said. Her silver skin caught the light as she rose from her seat. "The Althari have studied recording technology for longer than most species have existed. If this evidence is fake, I will know." Velketh's stone face showed his displeasure. "You waste our time, Ambassador. This human is clearly mad. His species is young and foolish. They see shadows and call them monsters." "Perhaps," Den replied calmly. "But the Althari remember the old stories better than most. We remember what the Hollow were said to be. We remember what they did to the precursors, to the first peoples, to all those who came before us." She held out her hand toward Vance. "The data core. Commander." Vance walked forward and placed the crystal in her palm. Their eyes met for a brief moment. Something passed between them, some understanding that needed no words. Den carried the crystal to her delegation's analysis station. Her fingers moved over controls that glowed with soft blue light. The chamber watched in silence as she worked. Minutes passed. The delegations grew restless. Counselor Morax hissed with impatience. The Vorix collective chimed and clicked among themselves. Only the Kelvori matriarchs remained still, their ancient stone bodies unmoving, their deep eyes watching everything. Finally, Den looked up. Her face was pale, her large dark eyes wide with something that looked very much like fear. "The recording is real," she said. Her voice was steady, but only just. "There are no edits, no manipulations, No artificial elements. What we saw actually happened. The chamber erupted. Voices shouted in a dozen languages. Accusations flew back and forth. Several delegates demanded that the human be questioned further. Others insisted that he was part of some Terran trick, some plan to frighten the elder races. Vance waited until the noise began to die down. Then he spoke again. You want to know about the Hollow. You want to know if they are real, if they can be stopped, if there is any hope. I will tell you everything I know. But first, you need to understand something about my people. He began to walk slowly around the chamber, his bare feet silent on the marble floor. Humanity has been traveling between stars for only 400 years. In that time, we have built colonies on 30 worlds. We have developed technologies that took other species thousands of years to discover. We have done things that everyone told us were impossible. He stopped in front of the Vorix collective delegation. The crystalline beings shimmered with internal light, their thoughts moving too fast for other species to follow. You call us reckless. You say we grow too fast, reach too far, dream too big. You are right. That is exactly what we do. He moved on to the Vindari. Counselor Morax watched him with cold reptilian eyes. You think we are dangerous because we do not know our place, because we do not bow to those who are older and stronger. You are right about that too. Finally, he returned to the center of the chamber. But there is something you do not understand about humanity, something that the Hollow learned the hard way. He held up his scarred hands. 50 years ago, the Hollow came to our solar system for the first time. They appeared above Earth's moon and began taking apart Luna Base. 200 researchers, gone in minutes. We had no weapons that could touch them. We had no shields that could stop them. We had nothing. The chamber was completely silent now. Within 18 hours, every nation on Earth had joined together. Every nuclear weapon on our planet was launched toward the moon. The Hollow ignored them. The missiles passed through their structures like light through glass. Vance's voice grew harder. So we built new weapons. In 48 hours, our scientists invented fold space warheads, weapons that did not explode in normal space, but inside the dimensional anchors, the Hollow used to exist. We did not know if they would work. We did not care. We fired everything we had. Ambassador Den leaned forward. And it worked? It worked. The Hollow structures broke apart. They retreated into whatever darkness they came from. Luna Base was destroyed, but Earth survived. Vance paused. We thought it was over. We were wrong. He activated his personal display. New images filled the chamber. These showed Earth itself, a blue and green jewel floating in space, and above it, dozens of the black iron structures, emerging from nothing like wounds in the fabric of reality. The second incursion came 15 years later. They brought more structures. They had adapted to our weapons. Our fold space warheads did nothing. Vance's jaw tightened. They began harvesting. Tokyo, London, New York. Millions of people, taken in the first hour. How did you survive? The question came from the eldest Kelvori matriarch. Her voice was like mountains moving. It was the first time she had spoken in the session. Vance turned to face her. We learned. We experimented. We tried everything, no matter how insane it seemed. One of our scientists discovered that psionic null fields disrupted their dimensional anchors. Another found that certain sound frequencies prevented them from phasing through solid matter. He almost smiled. A teenage girl in Brazil discovered that human music, played loud enough, caused their structures to shake and break. Not any music, only the songs that carried defiance. The songs that spoke of fighting against impossible odds. The songs that said we would never surrender. The chamber stirred. The idea seemed absurd. Music as a weapon against cosmic horrors? But Vance was not finished. We turned our planet into a fortress. Every speaker, every radio, every device that could carry sound, all playing the same thing. Billions of human voices singing together. And while we sang, our soldiers attacked. They went into the structures themselves. They fought the Hollow in places that should not exist, using weapons made of sound and light and pure human stubbornness. Vance's voice dropped low. We lost millions. Whole cities were emptied before we could stop them. But we did stop them. We pushed the Hollow back, and then we did something no one had ever done before. He looked around the chamber. We hurt them. We made them feel pain. We made them feel fear. And they ran. The delegation sat in stunned silence. The Thelosians, who had fought wars across 1,000 worlds, could not believe what they were hearing. The Vorix, who processed information faster than any other species, struggled to understand. Even the ancient Kelvori seemed moved. For 30 years we have prepared for their return, Vance continued. We have built weapons they have never seen. We have trained soldiers who know no fear. We have studied everything we captured from their structures, learned their weaknesses, found their blind spots. He picked up the data crystal from Ambassador Den's station. And then we learned that they were not coming back to Earth. They were coming here. To you. To the heart of galactic civilization. High Arbiter Velketh found his voice at last. Why? Why would they come here? We have done nothing to them. We did not even know they existed. Vance looked at him with something that might have been pity. Because of us, High Arbiter. They are coming because of humanity. And if you want to survive what is coming, you need to understand why. The question hung in the air like smoke. Why would the Hollow come to Nexus Prime? Why would they target the peaceful elder races who had never threatened anyone? Elias Vance walked slowly to the great window that looked out over the city below. Millions of lights sparkled in the darkness, each one representing countless lives going about their daily routines. None of them knew that their existence might soon end. To understand why they are coming, Vance said, you first need to understand what the Hollow actually are. He turned back to face the Consul. They are not invaders. They do not want your planets. They are not conquerors. They do not want your ships or your technology. They are not even enemies in any way you understand. Then what are they? Ambassador Den asked. They are harvesters. Vance let the word settle. But they do not harvest matter or energy. They harvest something far more valuable. They harvest potential. Counselor Morax shifted his serpentine body impatiently. Potential? You speak in riddles, human. Explain clearly or stop wasting our time. Vance nodded. Every species has a future. Not just the future that will happen, but all the futures that might happen. Every choice, every invention, every dream that might come true. The Hollow feed on those possibilities. They consume what a species could become. He walked back toward the center of the chamber. When they take a person, they do not kill them. They drain them. They remove every possible future that person might have had, every child they might have raised, every idea they might have thought, every song they might have sung. All gone. Eaten. Turned into nothing. The eldest Kelvori matriarch spoke, her voice heavy with ancient memory. The old texts speak of this. The devourers of tomorrow, they were called. We thought they were legends. Stories to explain why the precursors vanished. The precursors did not vanish, Vance said. They were harvested. The Hollow took them at the height of their power, when their potential was greatest, when they had the most futures to steal. High Arbiter Velketh made a sound of dismissal. If this is true, why have they not come for us? The Thelosian hegemony has ruled for thousands of years. The Kelvori are older still. We should be their greatest targets. That is exactly why they have left you alone. The words fell into silence. Velketh stared at the human with open confusion. Vance's voice was quiet now, almost gentle. When did the Thelosian hegemony last invent something new? When did you last explore unknown space? When did you last dream of something you had never done before? Velketh opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. You stopped growing 3,000 years ago. Your society is perfect, stable, unchanging. You have no potential left to harvest because you have no futures left to explore. You already are everything you will ever be. He turned to the Vorix collective. Your people process information faster than any other species. But when did you last have a new thought? A truly new thought? Something that surprised even yourselves? The crystalline beings chimed uncomfortably but did not answer. The Kelvori matriarchs have lived for millions of years. The Vindari Empire has not changed its borders in 10,000 years. The Elthari Concordat stopped asking questions 100 generations ago. Vance looked at each delegation in turn. You are all the same. Stable, peaceful, ancient, and completely without potential. You insult us, Morax hissed. I tell you the truth. The Hollow ignored you because you had nothing they wanted. You stopped dreaming. You stopped reaching for things beyond your grasp. You became safe. Vance's voice hardened. And then, humanity came along. Ambassador Den's silver face showed understanding. We changed things. Yes, you changed things. Humanity arrived in the galactic community like a fire in dry grass. We asked questions no one had asked in centuries. We built things no one thought possible. We dreamed of futures that the elder races had forgotten existed. Vance walked toward the Althari delegation. Before humanity came, your people had not produced a new art form in 4,000 years. Now your young people are creating music that has never been heard before. They are painting with colors that did not have names. They are writing stories that break every rule your ancestors set down. He turned to the Vorix. Your collective has started experimenting again. Not just processing information, but creating new algorithms, new patterns, new ways of thinking. You told yourselves it was just curiosity. But it was more than that. It was potential. Waking up, the chamber was completely still. Even the Thelosians have changed. Your military has started developing new weapons again. Your scientists have opened research programs that were closed for millennia. Your young warriors dream of glory instead of just duty. Vance faced Velketh directly. We inspired you, all of you. Not through force or conquest, but simply by being what we are. We showed you that it was still possible to grow, to change, to reach for something new. Velketh's 4 eyes narrowed. And the Hollow noticed. The Hollow noticed. For thousands of years, this sector of space was dark to them. Nothing worth taking. Nothing worth the effort. But then humanity's light began to spread. And everywhere it touched, old fires began to burn again. Vance returned to the center of the chamber. His face was tired, sad, and utterly determined. We did not mean to do this. We did not know the danger. We were just being human, the only way we know how to be. We reached out to you in friendship. We traded, and talked, and shared our dreams. And in doing so, we painted a target on every species in this sector. The eldest Kelvori matriarch spoke again. The colony ship, the Prometheus Rising. Why did they take it? Because it carried the brightest example of human potential. 40,000 people who had given up everything to build something new. Pioneers, dreamers, believers in impossible things. The Hollow could not resist. Vance's voice cracked slightly. They took them to study us, to understand what makes humanity burn so bright, and when they were finished studying, they turned their attention to this place. They are coming for us, Ambassador Den said quietly, because we started dreaming again. Yes, the Hollow are coming to harvest every future that humanity awakened in you, every new thought, every fresh idea, every young dream that we accidentally sparked. Vance looked around the chamber at beings who had lived for thousands of years, and had forgotten what it felt like to hope for something new. They are coming because of us, and we are the only ones who know how to stop them. Counselor Morax uncurled from his seat, his serpentine body tense with anger. Then the solution is simple. We remove humanity from our space. We quarantine your species. We cut you off from the rest of the galaxy, and let the Hollow follow you back to where you came from. Several delegates voiced their agreement. Vance had expected this. He had prepared for it. You could do that, he said calmly, but it would not save you. The Hollow do not care where the potential came from. They only care that it exists. You have already been touched by humanity's fire. The dreams have already started. You cannot unthink a new thought. You cannot unfeel a new hope. He let that sink in. The Hollow are coming in 3 rotations. Nothing you do will change that. The only question is whether you will face them alone, or whether you will let humanity help you survive. High Arbiter Velketh rose to his full height. And why should we trust you? You admit that this is your fault. You admit that your species has endangered us all. Why should we believe you want to help? Vance met his gaze without flinching. Because we have been preparing for this moment for 30 years. Because we know how to hurt them. Because our fleet is already on its way. Whether you want our help or not. He smiled that cold, hard smile again. And because, High Arbiter, we are human. We do not abandon the people we have endangered. We save them, or we die trying. The Grand Consul chamber had seen many historic moments in its 10,000 years of existence. Treaties had been signed within these walls. Wars had been declared and ended. Empires had risen and fallen while the living crystal watched in silence. But nothing had ever shaken the elder races like the words of a single human standing barefoot and bleeding in their midst. High Arbiter Velketh called for a recess. The delegations needed time to process what they had heard, to consult with their governments, to decide how to respond. Vance was escorted to a waiting room, though the guards who walked beside him seemed less certain now. They had heard his story. They had seen the evidence. Some of them were beginning to believe. 3 hours later, the Consul reconvened. Vance returned to find the chamber changed. The delegations no longer sat with the calm confidence of rulers who controlled the galaxy. They looked worried, uncertain, even afraid. For beings who had not known fear in thousands of years, it was a strange and unwelcome feeling. High Arbiter Velketh spoke first. "The Consul has reviewed your evidence, Commander Vance. We have consulted our oldest records. We have searched for any information about the creatures you call the Hollow." He paused, and something in his stone face seemed to crack. "We found references, hidden in archives that had not been opened for longer than humanity has existed. The devourers of tomorrow, the eaters of what might be, the empty ones who feast on dreams." Velketh's voice was heavy. "We thought they were myths. Children's stories told to explain why the stars are dark. We were wrong." Ambassador Den rose from her seat. "The Althari have confirmed the commander's analysis. The energy signatures in his recording match descriptions from our oldest texts. Whatever took his colony ship is the same thing that destroyed civilizations before any of us were born." "Then we are doomed," said Councillor Morax. The Vendari delegate sounded not afraid, but resigned. "If these creatures destroyed the precursors at the height of their power, what hope do any of us have?" "Humanity has hope." Every eye in the chamber turned to Vance. He stepped forward, his posture straight, despite the exhaustion that lined his face. "I told you that we fought the Hollow twice. I told you that we survived. But I did not tell you what we learned from those battles." He activated his display again. New images appeared, floating in the air above the gathered delegations. Schematics of weapons, diagrams of shields, battle plans drawn with precise military detail. "This is what humanity has built in the 30 years since the second incursion. We call it the Prometheus Protocol, named after the ship we lost to remind us why we fight." The images showed massive warships, unlike anything the elder races had seen. They were brutal, functional things, built not for elegance but for destruction. Their hulls were covered with strange devices that hummed with frequencies outside normal space. Resonance cannons. They fire focused sound waves tuned to the exact frequency that disrupts hollow dimensional anchors. One direct hit can crack open a structure and expose the things inside. Vance highlighted another system. Null field generators. They create zones where the hollow cannot phase through matter. They become solid, vulnerable, killable. The chamber stirred with whispered conversations. These weapons were unlike anything in galactic arsenals. They violated principles that the elder races had considered unbreakable laws. "We have 72 ships equipped with these systems. They are crewed by volunteers, soldiers who know they will probably not come home. Every one of them asked to be assigned to this mission." Vance's voice carried quiet pride. "They are not fighting for glory or conquest. They are fighting because it is the right thing to do." High Arbiter Velketh spoke carefully. "You said your fleet is already on its way. You did not ask permission." "No, we did not. This is a violation of every treaty humanity has signed with the Consul. You have sent warships into protected space without authorization. This is an act of war." Vance nodded slowly. "It is, and I will accept whatever punishment you decide is appropriate after the battle is over. But I will not apologize for it, and I will not call them back." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Several delegations demanded immediate action against the Terran fleet. Others called for sanctions against Earth. The Thalosians suggested destroying the human ships before they could arrive. Through it all, Vance stood silent and still. When the noise finally died down, he spoke again. "You can destroy our fleet. Your combined forces outnumber us by thousands to one. You can blast our ships out of the sky and send their crews into the void." He looked around the chamber. "And then you can face the Hollow alone, with no weapons that can touch them, and no knowledge of how to fight them." His voice hardened. "Or, you can let us do what we came here to do. We will intercept the Hollow at the Nexus Prime threshold. We will buy you time to evacuate, to prepare, to learn from what we know. Maybe we will win. Maybe we will all die, but we will hurt them. We will make them pay for every life they take." Ambassador Den stood up. "Commander Vance, if your fleet fights alone, What are your chances of victory? Vance was quiet for a moment. Honestly, maybe 10%. The force coming here is larger than anything we have faced before. Our weapons work, but we do not have enough of them. Our soldiers are brave, but they are still flesh and blood. And if we helped you? If the Consul races stood with humanity? The chamber went silent. Velketh turned to stare at the Althari ambassador with open shock. Vance answered slowly, choosing his words with care. If you fought beside us, our chances would improve. Your ships are not equipped for this enemy, but they could protect our flanks, draw fire, create openings. Your people have technologies we have never seen. Some of them might be adapted for this fight. You ask us to die for you. Morax hissed. No. I ask you to die for yourselves. For your children. For the futures you have only just begun to dream about again. Vance's voice carried across the chamber. I ask you to fight for the same thing humanity has always fought for. The right to become something more than we are. The eldest Kelvori matriarch shifted her massive body. When she spoke, her voice shook the floor. The Kelvori have not gone to war in 6,000 years. We made a vow to never again shed blood among the stars. I know, Vance said, but we made that vow because we had lost our purpose. We had forgotten why we fought. We had become empty, hollow in our own way. Her deep eyes fixed on the human. Your people reminded us that there is still something worth protecting. Perhaps it is time we remembered what it means to stand for something. Velketh slammed his fist against the table. This is madness. We cannot throw away 10,000 years of peace because one human makes pretty speeches. Then don't. Vance's voice was calm. Stay here. Stay safe. Watch from your crystal towers while humanity dies defending your worlds. He turned to walk toward the chamber doors. In 3 rotations, the sky will fill with fire. You can choose which side of history you want to be on. He stopped at the doors and looked back. But know this. Whatever you decide, humanity is coming. We will stand between you and the darkness, whether you want us to or not. Because that is what we do. That is what we have always done. He paused, and his final words rang through the ancient chamber like a bell. We do not abandon people. We do not surrender, and we do not ever stop fighting for tomorrow. The doors of the Grand Consul chamber closed behind Elias Vance, and he walked alone through the halls of Nexus Prime. His bare feet were numb now. His wounds had stopped bleeding, but they ached with every step. He had done everything he could. The rest was up to them. He was escorted to a small room in the diplomatic quarter. It had a bed, a window, and a communication terminal. He sat on the bed and stared at the stars beyond the glass, wondering which of those distant lights might be his fleet, burning toward them at maximum speed. Sleep came eventually, but it brought no peace. He dreamed of the Prometheus rising. He dreamed of the screaming. He dreamed of watching 40,000 people vanish into impossible darkness while he drifted in an escape pod. The only one who made it out. When he woke, it was to the sound of his door opening. Ambassador Syra Den stood in the doorway, her silver skin glowing softly in the dim light. Behind her stood 2 Althari guards and something he did not expect. A massive Kelvori matriarch, her stone body barely fitting through the corridor. Commander Vance, Den said. The Consul has made its decision. Vance stood, ignoring the pain in his legs. And? High Arbiter Velketh has ordered the Thelosian fleet to establish a defensive perimeter around Nexus Prime. They will not help you, but they will not stop you either. The Vendari have retreated to their own space. The Vorix Collective has taken no position. Vance nodded slowly. It was what he had expected. The elder races were too set in their ways to change overnight. But Den was still talking. However, she stepped into the room, and the matriarch followed, ducking her massive head to fit through the door. The Althari Concordat has voted to send 7 destroyers to fight alongside your fleet. They are older ships, not as powerful as yours, but they carry weapons that the Hollow may not expect. Before Vance could respond, the Kelvori matriarch spoke. Her voice was like an earthquake, but gentle. And I have come to tell you that the dreadnought Eternal Song will join your battle. It has not fired its weapons in 6,000 years, but its crew has not forgotten how to fight. Vance stared at them. Why? Because you were right. Den's dark eyes held something new, something that had not been there during the Consul session. We stopped dreaming. We stopped hoping. We forgot what it meant to reach for something beyond ourselves. Your people reminded us. The matriarch bent down until her ancient face was level with Vance's. The Kelvori made a vow to never shed blood again. But we made that vow out of despair, not wisdom. We thought there was nothing left worth fighting for. Her deep eyes seemed to look through him, into something far away. You have shown us that we were wrong. There is always something worth fighting for. The future itself is worth any sacrifice. Vance felt something warm spread through his chest. It was not hope, exactly. It was something smaller and more precious. It was the feeling that he was not alone anymore. Thank you, he said simply. 2 days passed. The Terran fleet arrived at the Nexus Prime threshold exactly on schedule. 72 warships arranged themselves in a defensive formation, their hulls dark against the stars. Each one carried weapons that had never been tested in actual combat against an enemy this powerful. Each one was crewed by men and women who had said goodbye to their families knowing they might never see them again. Among them flew 7 Althari destroyers, their elegant hulls glittering with crystalline technology, and at the center of the formation, ancient and massive and terrible, the Kelvori dreadnought Eternal Song waited in silence. Elias Vance stood on the bridge of the flagship Defiance, watching the tactical display with tired eyes. His wounds had been treated by Althari doctors. His uniform had been replaced with a clean one. But inside, he felt the same as he had in that escape pod 30 years ago. Small, fragile, and absolutely determined. Commander, the ship's captain, a woman named Chen with iron-gray hair and the eyes of a hunting hawk, turned from her station. We are detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of sensor range. They are coming, Vance nodded. Sound general quarters. All ships prepare for engagement. Throughout the fleet, alarms began to wail. Weapons systems powered up. Shield generators hummed to life. In the dreadnought, Eternal Song, ancient systems that had slept for 6,000 years began to wake, responding to the touch of operators who had trained their whole lives for a moment they never thought would come. The stars ahead began to change. Darkness spread across the void like ink bleeding through water. Points of light vanished one by one as something vast and impossible emerged from the spaces between dimensions. It was not one structure. It was not a dozen. It was a fleet of nightmares. Hundreds of black iron shapes that moved without moving, existed without existing, reached toward Nexus Prime with hunger older than the stars. On the bridge of the Defiance, someone whispered a prayer. Someone else was crying softly, but most of the crew simply stared at the enemy with faces set like stone, ready to fight, ready to die, ready to do whatever was necessary. Vance opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Commander Vance. I am not going to lie to you. What we are facing is the worst enemy any of us will ever know. They took our people. They want to take everyone else. They think we are afraid of them. He paused. They are wrong. Humanity has faced impossible odds before. We have fought enemies that should have destroyed us. We have survived things that should have ended us. And we are still here, not because we are the strongest or the smartest, but because we refuse to give up. We refuse to stop fighting. We refuse to let the darkness win. Throughout the fleet, men and women stood a little straighter, hands steadied on weapons controls, hearts beat faster but also calmer, filled with purpose instead of fear. Today we fight alongside allies who chose to stand with us. The Althari, who remembered what it means to dream. The Kelvori, who remembered what it means to protect. They did not have to come. They came anyway, because that is what courage looks like. The hollow structures were closer now, their impossible forms blotting out more and more stars. Soon the battle would begin, and many of them would die. But none of them would die alone. I do not know if we will win today. I do not know if any of us will survive. But I know this. When future generations tell the story of this moment, they will say that the peoples of this galaxy stood together against the darkness. They will say that when the universe tried to take their futures, they fought back. They will say that humans and Althari and Kelvori looked into the face of extinction and said no. Vance's voice rose, filling every ship in the fleet. So let us give them a story worth telling. Let us show the Hollow what it means to fight creatures who will not surrender. Let us teach them that the future belongs to those brave enough to reach for it. He drew a breath and spoke the words that would echo through history. All ships, engage the enemy. Fight for tomorrow. Fight for everyone we have lost and everyone we might yet save. Fight like the humans we are. The fleet surged forward, On Nexus Prime below, billions of beings watched the sky fill with fire. They watched tiny lights burn against an ocean of darkness. They watched the impossible happen. The hollow structures began to crack, to break, to fall before weapons that should not have existed, wielded by beings too stubborn to know they could not win. And somewhere in the Grand Consul chamber, High Arbiter Velketh watched the battle unfold and felt something he had not felt in 3,000 years. He felt ashamed. He felt inspired. He felt young. He turned to his aides and spoke words that would change the galaxy forever. Contact our fleet. Tell them to join the battle. Tell them the Thelosians do not hide while others die for us. Across the sector, other races made similar choices. The Vindari turned their ships around. The Vorix collective stopped calculating and started fighting. Species that had not known war in millennia remembered what their ancestors had fought for and decided that some things were worth the risk. And above Nexus Prime, the tide began to turn. The battle was not over. The war had only begun. Many would die before the Hollow were finally driven back into whatever darkness had spawned them. But on that day, something new was born. An alliance of dreamers and fighters. A partnership between ancient wisdom and young fire. A promise that no matter how dark the universe became, there would always be those who refused to stop reaching for the light. The future was worth fighting for, and humanity had shown them how.